I've got the 9 bridges on this. I'm going to give it to you after we go through them. So you can write them down if you want to. I don't mind. But I just want to let you know I will be giving you a handout with them on it. The first one is Live Christianity. That's the first bridge. And that's sort of, Bruce, what we're saying again about Rachel and saying, I want to go to the mission field to be Jesus. Christians say one thing, but act entirely different, or live, that's what we saw before. Here's the new perception. Here's what we're after. Christians are transparent about their flaws and act first, talk second. If there's anything I've noticed, it's in the younger generation, it's a deeper sense of honesty than my generation had. And it sometimes makes me uncomfortable, but I like it when I think about it, okay? I was in your church one week when you guys were talking up front about having had a little argument on the way to church or something. You know, when I was pastoring a local congregation, you would never say, you couldn't, if you were the pastor, you couldn't admit that you'd had any problems. Phooey! I mean, that doesn't make any sense, but that's what we tried to promote, and it reinforced some of these problems that we've got today in the church. Christians are transparent about their flaws. They act first and talk second. I've interviewed a number of younger potential pastors, and I find them to be much more open about their lives than what we thought we were supposed to be back when I was a bit younger. Got a quotation here. See if I can get to it. Oops, there we go. The world will be convinced not so much by what the pulpit teaches as by what the church lives. That was written over 100 years ago, folks. The preacher announces the theory of the gospel. I hope we can do more than that sometimes. But the practical piety of the church demonstrates its power. Wow. I thought that was pretty powerful. And then Jesus himself said, by this will all men know that you're my disciples, if you love one another. How about that? That's the first bridge. By the way, let me tell you, sometimes people used to think at least that pastors had to be on duty 24/7, so they couldn't do anything wrong. You know, you had to almost be in your suit and tie even if you went out for a walk or whatever. I'm exaggerating to make my point. But I've got the feeling that in reality, preachers are no different than anybody else. All of us are on duty 24/7. It's not just pastors. It's not just religious leaders. It's all of us are on duty all the time. We have to be. I still remember a place that I pastored where there was a family, 2 brothers. They were my age now or older when I was there. They lived in houses next to each other, and they had inherited the farm from their father. It was a truck farm, and the 2 of them ran the farm together. Only problem was they didn't like each other. If I went to one of the houses, all they talked about was the other one. If I went to that house, all they talked about was this one. It was all negative. I mean, you felt like you had to go take a bath after you got done listening to them. It was just, and they were Christians. They came to my church. One sat over here, and one sat over there. And they both had large families. And his family sat over here, and, you know, I mean, it was, anyway. Somebody came through once that, I think it was after, might have been after I left there, I can't remember now, and said, you know, I used to work for them in the summers. And they said it was the oddest thing. We would go in there at 8 o'clock in the morning or whatever time they started. We'd go in there and we'd have worship together. They'd have a devotional and, you know, whatever, and have a prayer. And then Fred would say, well, today we're going to do such and such. And Paul would say, no, we're not. We're going to do this. And for the next half hour, they'd listen to the 2 brothers argue and fight right after worship. Oh, I could tell you more, but I won't. But anyway, what did that one say? I'm going to live Christianity. And if Christianity is only the theory that comes from the pulpit, if it's only the theory that comes from what we read in Scripture, it's not going to be worth very much at all. I'm preaching to the choir. The second bridge, emphasize spirituality, and I can use the word, may I? Experience. Christians are insincere and only concerned about converting others. The new perception would be Christians cultivate relationships and environments where others can be deeply transformed by God.